Part 1. I used to believe in fairy tales. Not the ones with dragons and magic spells, but the ones where two people meet, fall in love, and build a perfect life together. That was my life with Jessica. I was Robert, the lucky man who had won the heart of the most beautiful, kind, and loving woman I'd ever known. Jessica and I had been together for 5 years, and every single day felt like a dream. We had met in college, back when I was just a nervous guy with big dreams, and she was the radiant girl who turned every head in the room. She had that kind of beauty that made people pause mid-sentence. But it wasn't just her looks. She had a laugh that could light up a room, a heart full of kindness, and a way of making me feel like I was the only person in the world. Our life together was everything I had ever wanted. We traveled, we built traditions, and we supported each other through every challenge. Our apartment was filled with laughter, the smell of home-cooked meals, and memories of the life we were building. Sunday mornings were our thing: coffee in bed, a slow playlist in the background, and endless conversations about our dreams for the future. She worked in marketing, climbing her way up the corporate ladder with effortless grace, while I had finally established myself in finance. Our incomes had given us a comfortable life, but it was never about the money. It was about the moments, holding hands under city lights, stealing kisses at red lights, dancing in our living room at midnight. I was so damn happy. I thought she was too. We hosted dinner parties for our closest friends, where Jessica would cook an elaborate meal and charm everyone with her effortless wit. She had this way of making people feel special, like they were the most important person in the room. I loved watching her from across the table, her green eyes full of light, her laughter filling every corner of our home. Everyone admired us. We were the couple people envied, the kind of love story that looked effortless from the outside. Jessica had a way of making even the most mundane moments feel extraordinary. Grocery shopping turned into a game of picking out new foods to try. Cleaning the apartment together became a dance, music blaring as we playfully bumped into each other. Even our quiet nights, wrapped up in blankets on the couch, sharing a bottle of wine, felt special. I would catch myself just staring at her sometimes, overwhelmed by how lucky I was. She was my person, my home, my world. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but it was close. We had our disagreements, but they never lasted long. She hated how I left my socks on the floor, and I teased her about how she never filled up the gas tank. But every argument ended in laughter, in kisses, in whispered apologies. We had a rhythm, an unbreakable bond, or so I thought. I should have seen the signs. Looking back, I wonder if they were always there, waiting for me to notice. The late nights at work, the mysterious phone calls, the way she sometimes seemed distant when she thought I wasn't looking. But I was blinded by love, so utterly convinced of our perfect life that I ignored the little cracks forming in the foundation of our relationship. Jessica had started spending more time at the gym, something I never questioned. She cared about her health, and I loved that about her. She would come home sweaty, her hair damp, and flash me that smile, the one that had made me fall in love with her in the first place. I never thought twice about it. I never questioned why her phone was always on silent or why she suddenly seemed to guard it more closely. I never wondered why, on some nights, she would come home later than usual, offering an excuse so casual, so believable, that I never doubted her for a second. The nights we spent together were filled with whispered dreams and soft touches. I would trace my fingers along her skin, memorizing every inch of her as if she were a masterpiece I had been lucky enough to call my own. Jessica would fall asleep in my arms, her breath warm against my chest, and I would listen to the steady rhythm of her heart, believing it beat only for me. Our friends admired us. They called us the perfect couple. People we barely knew would tell us we were lucky to have found each other. And I believed them. I believed in the fairy tale we had crafted, in the bond we had built. It was a love story I thought would last forever. There was a warmth in our home, in our lives. Even our fights were small, insignificant. We argued over who would do the dishes, who would pick the movie for the night, who forgot to buy milk. And then, just as quickly as the fights started, they ended in laughter and kisses, and apologies whispered against bare skin. That was love. That was what I thought love was supposed to be. I had no idea that beneath it all, beneath the smiles and the whispered promises, something was growing. A shadow I hadn't noticed, creeping into the spaces between us. But in that moment, in those last weeks of blissful ignorance, I still believed I was the luckiest man alive. I had no idea my entire world was about to come crashing down. Part 2. Planning a wedding with Jessica was supposed to be the most exciting time of my life. And in many ways, it was. It felt surreal, like we were crafting a real-life fairy tale, piece by piece, bringing to life a vision that belonged in the pages of a glossy magazine. Every little detail mattered, and we spared no expense to ensure that our day would be nothing short of perfect. Jessica had always dreamed of a wedding by the sea. Not just any beach wedding, but an extravagant, breathtaking event where everything was white and pristine, where the sky and ocean blended seamlessly into the backdrop of our vows. She wanted the kind of wedding people would talk about for years, the kind that would leave guests in awe from the moment they arrived. We chose a luxury resort, a private venue on the coast with a sprawling terrace that overlooked the turquoise waters. It was a place where the sand was soft as silk, where the waves lapped gently at the shore, and the sun cast a golden glow on everything it touched. The ceremony would take place at sunset, the sky painted in shades of pink and orange, the perfect setting for the perfect day. Jessica was meticulous about every detail. The color scheme? Pure white with hints of champagne gold. White roses, white peonies, and cascading orchids lined the aisle, their fragrance drifting through the salty sea air. The chairs were draped in soft silk, and a long white carpet led straight to the altar, a grand, floral-adorned arch where we would exchange our vows. Petals would be scattered on the walkway, a subtle touch of romance added to an already enchanting scene. A massive LED screen was set up beside the ceremony space, displaying a slideshow of our most cherished moments. Photos of us traveling the world, laughing in our apartment, cuddling on the couch on lazy Sunday mornings, our love story, laid bare for all to see. It was her idea, and at the time, I found it beautiful. A way to remind everyone of the journey that had led us here. A way to show the world how much we meant to each other. The reception would be even grander. A towering white tent, adorned with thousands of fairy lights, creating the illusion of a starlit sky. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a soft glow over the lavishly decorated tables. Every table had a centerpiece of fresh roses and orchids, surrounded by flickering candles and golden holders. The plates were fine china, the silverware polished to perfection, the champagne glasses rimmed with gold. Each guest would be treated like royalty. Jessica had insisted on a 10-tier wedding cake, white fondant, gold detailing, and real flowers cascading down the sides. The catering was handled by a Michelin star chef, the menu carefully curated to include only the finest cuisine. Fresh lobster, filet mignon, truffle risotto, handcrafted desserts flown in from Paris. It was indulgent, excessive even, but this was Jessica's dream, and I wanted to give her everything she had ever wanted. The entertainment was on another level. A live orchestra would play during the ceremony, transitioning into a jazz band for cocktail hour, and then, as the night unfolded, a famous DJ would take over, ensuring that the party never stopped. There would be fireworks over the ocean at the end of the night, a grand finale to mark the beginning of our forever. Jessica was radiant throughout the planning process. She threw herself into every detail with an excitement that was infectious. She would come home late from meetings with planners, exhausted but beaming. She would show me mood boards, fabric swatches, and carefully curated guest lists. Every conversation revolved around the wedding, who would sit where, what song we would dance to, what flavors should be in the cake. It was overwhelming, but in the best way possible. I was marrying the woman of my dreams, and nothing else mattered. But there were small moments, fleeting, almost imperceptible, when something felt off. A hesitation in her voice when I asked about her day. A glance at her phone that lasted a little too long. A smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I dismissed it every time. I told myself it was the stress of planning such a grand event, the pressure of wanting everything to be perfect. I had no reason to doubt her. Jessica loved me. She was about to vow her life to me in front of hundreds of people. In front of the ocean, under the stars. This was our fairy tale. Nothing could go wrong. Or so I thought. Part 3. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the ocean as Jessica stood before me, radiant in her white gown. This was it, the moment we had been waiting for. Our wedding had unfolded like a dream, everything as perfect as we had planned. The waves whispered in the background, the scent of fresh flowers filled the air, and the hundreds of guests sat in silent anticipation, watching us, waiting for us to make our promises to one another. Jessica held my hands, her green eyes shimmering with what I thought were tears of joy. Her voice was steady, filled with emotion as she spoke. Robert, from the moment I met you, I knew my life had changed forever. You are my best friend, my rock, my love. I promise to stand by your side through every high and low, to cherish you, to honor you, to love you for all my days. Her words were beautiful. I wanted to believe them. I wanted this moment to be exactly what it was supposed to be, the happiest day of my life. Then, a sudden flicker from the giant LED screen beside us drew everyone's attention. I frowned. This wasn't part of the plan. A moment later, the screen came to life, and instead of the slideshow of our memories, a grainy video began to play. The audio kicked in first, a woman's voice, breathy, laughing. Jessica's voice. Then the image appeared. My bride. My perfect, beautiful Jessica. But she wasn't in her wedding dress. She wasn't standing beside me. She was in a dimly lit hotel room, tangled in the sheets with another man. Her face, her body, her unmistakable voice whispering promises, not to me, but to him. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone screamed. My mother covered her mouth in horror. Jessica's father stood frozen, eyes wide with disbelief. But nothing compared to the way my heart slammed against my ribs, the way my blood turned to ice as I watched my wife-to-be, the woman I loved, betray me in front of everyone I knew. Jessica let go of my hands, stumbling backward, her face drained of all color. She turned, as if looking for the source of the video, as if desperate to stop it. But it played on. You know I love you. Jessica's voice cooed from the screen, her fingers running down the stranger's chest. I wish it was you I was marrying. The man chuckled. Then why are you? Because he's safe, she whispered. He's good to me. But you're what I really want. Then, the final, damning moment. The man's voice was clear, confident. Will you marry me, Jessica? The video froze. The silence that followed was suffocating. The entire wedding party was motionless, staring at the screen in stunned disbelief. The guests, the officiant, the musicians, everyone held their breath, waiting for what would happen next. The air was thick with tension, with shock, with devastation. Jessica turned to me, her face streaked with tears. Robert, please, it's not what it looks like. I laughed. A bitter, hollow laugh. Not what it looks like? I gestured wildly at the screen, at the frozen image of her wrapped around another man. Jessica, it's exactly what it looks like. The officiant, who had been standing in stunned silence, took a slow step back, clearing his throat. Do you still wish to continue with the ceremony? Jessica whirled to face me, her hands gripping my arms. Robert, please, I love you. I do. I made a mistake. I wrenched away from her. My voice was quiet, but it carried through the stunned crowd. A mistake. I shook my head. No, Jessica. Dropping a glass is a mistake. Forgetting an anniversary is a mistake. This is who you are. A murmur spread through the guests, some agreeing, others simply stunned into silence. Jessica's mother burst into sobs. Her father's face was twisted in fury. My own best man placed a hand on my shoulder, steadying me, as if reminding me to breathe. I turned back to Jessica, my heart pounding, my hands clenched into fists. You ruined everything, I whispered. You ruined us. Jessica dropped to her knees, sobbing, reaching for me. Robert, please, don't do this. I'll fix it. I swear, I'll fix it. I stepped back, shaking my head. There was nothing to fix. The damage was done. The mystery man in the crowd, the one who had played the video, smirked and gave me a slight nod, like he had done me a favor. Maybe he had. Maybe I should have thanked him. But I couldn't feel anything except the numb, crushing weight of betrayal. I turned on my heel and walked away, past the shocked faces, past the gasping guests, past the wreckage of the life I had thought I was about to begin. Jessica's cries faded into the distance, swallowed by the sound of the waves. The wedding was over. Part 4. I don't remember driving home. The night after the wedding was a blur, the pain so sharp it almost didn't feel real. One moment, I had been standing at the altar, listening to Jessica swear her love to me. The next, I was walking away, leaving behind the wreckage of what was supposed to be our perfect future. I spent the night in a hotel, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The betrayal replayed in my mind like a cruel movie. Every detail burned into my memory. The sound of her voice in the video, the way she had touched him, the fucking words she had said. He's safe. He's good to me. But you're what I really want. The next morning, I did what needed to be done. I called a lawyer. Jessica tried to contact me, texts, calls, voicemails. I didn't answer. I didn't want to hear her excuses, her pathetic apologies. There was nothing left to say. I had already seen the truth, played out in high definition for the world to witness. By noon, I was sitting in the sleek, minimalist office of Daniel Carter, one of the top divorce attorneys in the city. He had been recommended to me by a friend, someone who had gone through something similar, though not nearly as humiliating. Daniel sat across from me, flipping through his notepad, nodding as I told him everything. His expression remained unreadable, professional. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, tapping his pen against the desk. This is going to be easy, he said. You're not legally married yet, which simplifies the process significantly. No assets to split, no shared property, no alimony. You'll walk away clean. Good, I said. My voice felt hollow. The only thing she might fight for is any deposits made for the wedding, he added. Were they in your name or hers? Mine, I said. I paid for everything. Daniel smirked. Then she's out of luck. I'll make sure she doesn't see a single cent. It should have felt like a victory. It didn't. That evening, I returned to our apartment, my apartment now. Jessica wasn't there, though signs of her still lingered everywhere. Her perfume clung to the air. Her clothes hung neatly in the closet. Her stupid little notes, love you, babe. Have a great day, were still stuck to the fridge. I grabbed a trash bag and started ripping them down, one by one. Halfway through, the front door burst open. Jessica. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair a mess, as if she had been crying for hours. She looked at me, her face twisting with desperation. Robert, please, she whispered. Just talk to me. I didn't stop cleaning. There's nothing to talk about. She rushed toward me, grabbing my arm. Yes, there is. You won't answer my calls. You won't let me explain. I turned, yanking my arm free. Explain what, Jessica? That it wasn't you in that video? That I imagined the whole fucking thing? Tears spilled down her cheeks. It was a mistake, Robert. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. A mistake? A mistake is spilling coffee on your shirt. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. What you did, I pointed toward the door, toward the world beyond it, was a choice. A fucking choice. She sobbed. I love you. No, you don't. I shook my head. You love the security I gave you. You love the idea of me. But love? Love doesn't do what you did. Her hands trembled as she reached into her purse, pulling out a crumpled piece of paper. I wrote you a letter. Please, just read it. I stared at it. A fucking letter? As if words could erase the betrayal. As if a few inked apologies could undo what had been done. I grabbed the paper, tore it in half, then again, letting the shredded pieces flutter to the floor. There's your answer. Jessica let out a choked sob. Robert, please, don't do this. We can fix it. We can go to therapy. I stepped back, shaking my head. I already filed for divorce. She paled. No, you can't. It's done. I cut her off. You'll be getting the papers soon. And don't worry, you can keep the dress. Maybe your real fiancé will want to see you in it. She broke then, collapsing onto the couch, her body racked with sobs. Once, I would have comforted her. Once, I would have hated seeing her in pain. Not anymore. I grabbed my keys and walked to the door. I want you out by tomorrow. She lifted her head, her eyes desperate. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Not my problem. And with that, I walked out, leaving her behind. Just like she had left me the moment she decided to betray me. The divorce was happening, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Part 5. Jessica thought she could move on. She thought I would fade away, that life would simply continue, that the world would forgive and forget. But betrayal comes with consequences, and I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. The day the divorce was finalized, I woke up feeling lighter, but not satisfied. Jessica had taken so much from me, but she had yet to pay for what she did. Not just to me, but to the life we had built, the trust she had shattered, the humiliation she had inflicted. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. And I knew exactly where to start. Jessica worked in marketing, climbing her way up the corporate ladder, presenting herself as the picture-perfect woman, successful, intelligent, polished. But her company valued integrity, and it didn't take much to tip the scales against her. A few emails, a few well-placed messages, a link to the wedding video, discreetly sent to key figures at her firm. The fallout was immediate. The whispers in the office turned to outright hostility. Her boss called her in, questioned her about the embarrassing public scandal. Clients started backing out of deals, not wanting to associate with a woman whose dirty laundry had been aired in front of hundreds of people. The company prided itself on family values, and Jessica had become a liability. She was fired by the end of the week. She called me that night, screaming through the phone. You did this. You fucking ruined me. I smirked. No, Jessica, you ruined yourself. I just made sure everyone saw it. She sobbed, cursing me, threatening me. I hung up, letting her cries become nothing more than static in the void. But I wasn't done yet. Jessica had been living comfortably, but most of that comfort came from me. Without my income, without my name on the lease, she was suddenly drowning in expenses she couldn't afford. Rent, bills, credit card debt. I made sure none of it would be my problem. She tried to keep up for a while, maxing out cards, borrowing from friends. But people don't lend money to someone they don't trust, and trust was something Jessica no longer had. Her apartment was the first thing to go, evicted within 2 months. Then her car, repossessed after she missed enough payments. She had gone from luxury to desperation, forced to move back in with her parents, the same people who had once looked down on me as not good enough for their perfect daughter. Now, she was the one struggling. Now, she was the one drowning. But I wasn't finished. Jessica had betrayed me for another man, and I knew exactly who he was. His name was Evan, a mid-level executive, married with 2 kids. A man who had whispered in Jessica's ear that he would leave his wife for her, that they would be together once the time was right. I made sure his wife got the same video I had been forced to watch. Within hours, Evan's life imploded. His wife threw him out, his company found out about the scandal, and just like Jessica, he was left with nothing. And Jessica? She wasn't the woman he wanted to build a life with. She was the woman he had used, the affair he had indulged in, nothing more. The moment his wife left him, the moment his career began to crumble, he turned his back on Jessica without hesitation. She begged him to stay. He laughed in her face. She had ruined everything for a man who never planned to stay. Jessica had nothing left. No job, no home, no man to fall back on. She was exactly where she had left me, broken, alone, and humiliated. I should have felt guilty. Maybe a part of me did. But when I saw her one last time, sitting in a cafe, hunched over a cup of coffee she could barely afford, her eyes hollow, her once pristine appearance now faded, I felt nothing but satisfaction. She looked up, as if sensing me, and when our eyes met, I saw it. The realization, the understanding of what had been done to her. I leaned in close, just enough for her to hear me. You deserved every second of this. Then I walked away, never looking back. Jessica had destroyed my life, so I destroyed hers in return. And I didn't regret a single thing. A week later, I got an email from a mutual friend. Jessica had tried to reach out again, desperate to get back on her feet, desperate for someone, anyone, to help her. But no one wanted to. The people who had once admired her, the colleagues who had respected her, the so-called friends who had envied her life, all of them had distanced themselves. She was a pariah, unwanted, discarded, the same way she had discarded me. I didn't reply to her messages. I didn't pick up when she called from unknown numbers. I let her sit in the ruins of the life she had burned to the ground. Revenge had never been my intention at the start. But damn, did it feel good. Jessica had played her game. She had made her choices. And in the end, she had lost everything. Me? I had nothing left to destroy. And for the first time in a long time, I was free. The end.